the number one thing is we've got to bring federal government spending under control.
Okay.
And that will bring inflation under control. The number one driver of inflation is government shoveling money by the shovelful into the economy. President Reagan said it best. He said inflation is the cruel tax on the poor caused by those free government programs. Number one is border security.
Okay.
We've got to do that first.
Okay.
If you don't have a border, you don't have a country.
Do you have a simple plan that you would lay out of what you would do once you're in office in order to
finish the wall?
Okay.
Give our border agents all the resources that they need to clamp down. Even when the wall is in place, I've heard that there are places at the cartel every night cuts a hole in the wall, and there's a contractor whose job is to go weld back those places in the wall every night. Obviously, we need more border agents. We need more drones. We need more boots on the ground to stop those kinds of things from happening every night to our borders. So, but let's start with the wall. That keeps people from just traipsing across the Rio Grande.
Ukraine. Give me just your take on Ukraine and what you will do as a congressman to...
Not a penny to Ukraine.
Okay.
I care about the U.S. border. I don't give a damn about the Ukraine border.
Amen.
I don't give a damn about the Ukraine border.
Yep.
You know, do I privately support them? Sure. Might I make a donation to the Ukraine, Red Cross effort? Of course. Support the Ukraine people, and they've been so brave, unbelievably brave. I can't believe that they have held off the Russians for 2.5 years. It's amazing, but U.S. tax dollars to defend some other country's border? No.
And would you ever vote for our U.S. troops to go to Ukraine?
No.
Never. Thank you. You know, there's a faction inside the U.S. Congress of America First patriots who unseated Kevin McCarthy. Do you think that was a good idea?
I don't, for a couple of reasons. We can't be getting rid of our leadership every time they do something that ticks us off. Now, should there be accountability? Yes. There absolutely should be accountability. And is there a point at which you say this leader's not doing the job, they have to be removed, either in getting rid of the speaker or impeachment? Yes, of course. But, you know, we can't go down that road of every 6 months getting rid of our speaker because there's one issue that we're ticked off about.
But if our speaker is wearing a Ukrainian flag pin and they're all waving Ukrainian flags in the hall of Congress, what are you going to do when that becomes your associates decide to do that?
I'm going to hand out American flags. We should put that crap down. There's nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says we can take taxpayer dollars and give it to other countries.
Term limits?
Since it's not in the Constitution, no. Do I personally support term limits? I do, and I'm only going to serve 2 terms, and then I'm gone.
One thing I can say about those agitators who are in the America First movement, they really do comply with the wishes of their constituents. How are you going to handle it whenever your personal belief, after seeing the inner workings and having to deal with all your associates, comes face to face with what your constituents want? What if they want you to get rid of a House Speaker and they let you know that? How are you going to juxtapose that?
That's a very good question, and I do want to be responsive to the people. You've got to you've got to make sure that you're listening to the will of the people and not just 10 noisy people.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's evidence that a majority of the voters in CD32 wanted to get rid of the speaker, yeah, I would certainly listen to him. So,
Okay.
and I'm like a lot of people. I've been a little bit disappointed with Mike Johnson. Um, Again, not ready to throw out the baby with the
Right,
bathwater yet, especially 4 months before an election. Number one, and we talked about it a little bit, is bringing inflation under control because inflation is killing American families. I mean, how can people feed a family of four now? I mean, you go to the grocery store, you get 4 or 5 items, and it's $50. I mean, we've got to bring inflation under control. Number one. Um, Number two, and this is part of the inflation question. We've seen young people are so worried that they'll never be able to buy a house. Because I spoke at the UTD campus, and that was the number one thing that they were worried about. Would they ever be able to buy a house? So again, this gets back to inflation. We must bring inflation under control. And one way to bring the federal budget under control is I'm an advocate of zero-based budgeting. I do that with my business. There are a lot of large corporations that do zero-based budgeting. Right now, as you know, every government agency says, okay, last year we got $1 billion. Well, now next year we need 1.1 billion. And instead, I want to make every agency go before Congress and justify every every dollar that they spend and also justify their existence. Now, it's going to make my job a lot harder. The budget process is going to be a 10-month arduous process, and I'm 100% willing to do that to bring things under control. But just imagine what we could do to the federal budget if we required every federal agency to justify every dollar that they spend, and how many agencies would we get rid of when they justify their existence and we find out that they do nothing for the American people whatsoever? How many hundreds of agencies would we get rid of? I'm a very persistent guy. There is no appetite in Washington for this.
No.
But I'm going to start with the Freedom Caucus, and maybe we can grow the Freedom Caucus with this. But tell me a better way to bring the federal deficit under control.
It's perfect.
If there's a better way, I'm all ears.
It has to be done.
But tell me some reason that. Remember last time there was a budget impasse? It was, I don't know, 12 years ago, and they shut down the government.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful opportunity to go to people and say, well, the government's been shut down. How's your life? Well, it's still okay.
Made no difference.
Well, maybe we should just keep it shut down.